Since I started Pursuit of Perfect System maybe 2.5 years ago, I will openly admit I have been in DAC trinated. In DAC trinated, see what I did there? And that's because I've been listening to and enjoying the Chord Electronics range of DACs throughout that whole time. And don't get me wrong, I've listened to other DACs in that time as well. Normally they've been built into other products, maybe, amplifiers, they've been built in with those. And yes, there's been some really standout good things about those other DACs, but it's normally not long into listening to them that I'm missing Chord Electronics DACs and what they do. But in this case, with the Musician Audio Pegasus, that hasn't been the case. If anything, it's been the opposite.
Ooh, why always me? Like I'm Balotelli. Ooh, why always me? Ooh, like I'm Balotelli. Telly, yeah, why always me? Ooh, like I'm Balotelli.
Full disclosure, Musician Audio sent me the Pegasus DAC for this review, but they've had absolutely no inputs into the video, and all the opinions in this video are my own. Musician Audio are a new company to me, and the Pegasus DAC is a new product to me. And in fact, it's the first R2R DAC that I've reviewed and actually spent any real time listening to. Priced at £875 and available from Amazon, and there'll be links down below in the video description if you're interested in picking the Pegasus up. I think it is the most affordable standalone DAC that I have reviewed as well. I had no preconceived ideas or prejudgments with the Pegasus DAC, and the packaging quality it comes in, it's okay, but I was extremely impressed by the actual physical build quality. It feels heavy, it feels solid, and I like the size of it. I really like the size, the look, and the overall form factor. There is a pretty cool M shape on the rear of the top plate, M shape for Musician Audio. Maybe that's the thing. And there are some very standout features or design choices with the Pegasus that really jump out to me as an audiophile. Firstly, the use of a Furatech IEC power socket. I like that. And the use of premium quality connections or connectors. And this may seem like a minor thing, but in reality and practice, it's really not. And here is why. On the left, you can see the rear of the Chord Electronics Qutest DAC, which costs £1,195. And look at the connectors, or the RCA connectors, really quality that we get for that price tag. On the right is the Chord Electronics Hugo TT2, which costs £3,995. And look at the connectors or the RCA connections quality that we get for that price tag. In the middle is the Musician Audio Pegasus, which costs £875. Which out of these two Chord Electronics DACs is the Pegasus most closely matched to for RCA analog connector quality? Well, it's quite clearly the TT2. And the Chord Qutest, which is more expensive than the Pegasus, I think has worse quality RCA connectors. Don't get me wrong, there's absolutely nothing wrong with the RCA connectors on the Qutest, but I just think they are not as good as the connectors on the Pegasus or on the Hugo TT2. And another big tick for a lot of audiophiles will be the fact that we get balanced outputs or balanced connections with the Pegasus, which we don't get on the Chord Qutest, which costs more. This is important to bear in mind, I think, for the Pegasus, because it is a balanced DAC, which means the balanced outputs will be how you get the best sound quality from it. I will admit, I much prefer Chord Electronics' use of BNC-based digital inputs on the Qutest and the TT2 compared to, Pegasus's choice to use an RCA SPDIF input, but that's just my personal preference. You may prefer things the other way around. There are several different digital inputs, and there is a HDMI input for I2S connections. However, if you look at the Musician Audio website, you will see that there's only a handful of products that have been confirmed to work with this particular orientation of I2S HDMI. On the front, there are two important buttons really to pay attention to besides the on and off. One is obvious, that is the input selector, and the other one is a NOS button. The Pegasus DAC will by default oversample music up to 16 times. And that is with the NOS button off. If we engage the NOS button, that will disable the oversampling and the music will play at its original sample rate. So on is off and off is on. There are two key factors that I need to tell you before I give you, any opinions and thoughts on the sound quality on the Pegasus. And firstly, I wasn't hearing it at its absolute best. And that is because I had to use its RCA outputs and not its balanced outputs. Again, the Pegasus is a balanced DAC. So for the best sound quality, you will want to use its balanced outputs. But in saying that, I was using the Pegasus in a pretty high-end hi-fi system. I've created a sound demonstration video for that whole system featuring the Pegasus, and the results were pretty damn stunning. Yes, I wasn't hearing it at its best, but I was still hearing it to a very, very high level. And the second factor to point out is that I used the SPDIF digital input into the Pegasus throughout this whole review. And what that allowed me to do was more easily compare the sound of the Pegasus to other DACs. Had I used the USB output or the USB input for the Pegasus, I would have also been comparing the sound of the DAC plus the Windows drivers. And for this main comparison, really, I was putting the Pegasus up against the Chord Electronics Qutest. I was impressed with the sound quality of the Pegasus DAC straight away. It impressed me with its smooth, graceful, easygoing, effortless sound character. This type of sound presentation makes lots of different music very enjoyable and very fun to listen to. And yes, it's a good enough DAC to point out the differences between, high quality files or lower quality files, but the more mellow, graceful type of presentation doesn't punish those lesser quality files quite so much. And I think that will be a big tick in a lot of audiophiles boxes that maybe stream a lot of music from maybe different quality streaming services, or even from the highest quality streaming services like Qobuz, for example, because we all know that lots of different music files have lots of different levels of sound quality. And I think, if we can listen to more music and enjoy the sound of more music, that's got to be a good thing. The treble delivery from the Pegasus, no surprises for me saying that it's smooth. Maybe it's a little softer, a smidgen softer than some other DACs that you might listen to, which could be a good thing or a good sign, depending on how you look at things. Vocals, mid-range, very, very interestingly, again, that unwavering, smooth, graceful type character. But with that, sometimes with some music, male and female vocals take on a real special type of organic character. That's something that stood out to me and that I've really been enjoying. The bass I initially felt was maybe a little bit softer and a little bit less substantial than I am used to, and compared to what I like. But after a longer listening session, I realised that the bass is actually quite nicely balanced with the rest of this graceful, unwavering, nice flow type of sound. And to, I suppose, offset this and to find the sound that I really enjoyed, all I did was, within the custom Direct Live calibration that I'd done on the system, is just ask the system for a little bit more bass. The bass really from the Pegasus is nice and tight and controlled, again with a lovely smooth organic character. The NOS button on the front, now that is an interesting one, because with the NOS button disabled and the oversampling enabled, the sound from the Pegasus, I would say, is slightly softer with a cleaner leading edge or a cleaner edge, and it's a sound that is more maybe go away from you, a bit more go to the sound. With the NOS button enabled and the oversampling disabled, the sound is maybe a little bit rougher around the edges and the timing isn't maybe quite as good, but the sound is a bit more upfront, a bit more direct, and a bit more come to you. I would say I preferred the sound with the NOS button enabled and the oversampling disabled, but I can see a lot of audiophiles preferring the sound the other way around, and it's just nice to have the choice. Comparing the Musician Audio Pegasus to the Chord Electronics Qutest was really interesting because both of these DACs do things differently. The Qutest, for starters, is louder and more substantial sounding, even when the voltages are matched, 2-volt outputs across both of the two DACs. The Qutest sounds louder and more substantial, and in some ways that substantial sound is better on the Qutest, but I am not sure it's 100% for the better in 100% of sound characteristic areas. The Qutest definitely sounds the tighter of the two DACs, and each key element within a soundstage will sound tighter, it will sound more focused and more densely populated. And that makes the Qutest sound like a more details-centric sounding DAC from the two. And the more substantial aspect of this sound can be more pleasing and can sound better, but with that can come a harder sound and maybe a slightly harsher sound compared to the Pegasus DAC, which has a smooth, more relaxed, yes, less substantial overall sound. It has a more smooth and effortless, more musical flow. So yes, each key element of the soundstage are less densely populated, less substantial, but because of that, the overall sound is a bit more relaxed, a bit more easygoing. So for my final thoughts, I've got to say the Musician Audio Pegasus DAC is a really good DAC. It has an excellent build quality, a really nice overall form factor, really high quality connections, and most importantly, a really nice, very, very easy to like sound quality. And on that note, Musician Audio, you get a clap from me. Very, very well done. I think the Pegasus DAC is a really cracking product. So I hope you've enjoyed this review. I hope you found it useful and helpful. If you have enjoyed it, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I'm sure you have. Thank you for watching. I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye.
Yeah, why always me?